Is that on?
No, back
Am I allowed to move this?
Yes.
Okie doke. All right, so hope everyone gets to take a look at the piece of paper going around. That's going to kind of come in at the end. So by looking at the Philippines and the combinations of cultures and the way that they adapted to the new demographics that came into their society, we can kind of see how they culminated themselves, which is very important because today we have a little bit of a lack of exclusivity and diversity. So what you guys will have the pleasure of learning about is how the Philippines kind of work as a family, how religion plays in the way that they celebrate Lent, hint, they're Catholic, and kind of a little bit about the food, so save the best part for the very end. So I'm from the South, born and raised, so we're all very familiar with how a family friend will sort of become family in a sense. The same thing happens in the Philippines. A very close friend will be taking part in sort of a mutually beneficial relationship. Your mother will feed them like a child, but if they happen to come in on a Sunday where we're cleaning and moving things, they're going to be a part of the whole cleanup mess. So that kind of is a part that's very similar to them. As well, international families are more common these days, leaving the homeland, but family is very important to the Philippines. They try and see each other relatively often, whether that's through online, like Skype or FaceTime or anything like that, and they try and see each other annually or biannually, kind of rolling those around holidays or special events. And that's something I picked up from the International Encyclopedia of Marriage and Family, and that was done by Kathleen Nadeau. Additionally, coming from the Bible Belt, you can all relate to a very heavy religious presence. Philippines are no stranger to that. So the way that they celebrate Lent, very heavily Catholic. They do Palm Sunday, which is very normal, celebrating Jesus coming in, throwing down the palm leaves, and something they call Maundy Thursday, which is where they'll visit multiple churches. They do it in multiples of 7, so 7 or 14. I imagine there's some extremists who go to 21. Those people happen. But then the most important one, who's seen those videos that Vice has put out where people crucify themselves? Raise your hands. Who's seen that video? People crucifying themselves. Man, go ahead and look those up. They're pretty intense. So that is actually the Philippines. They take part in a very intense Good Friday where they'll walk through the streets, they'll whip themselves in the back, they'll drink so that the blood comes out a little more intensely, and they'll crucify themselves. So moving right along, the way that marriage plays in, so if you have ever been to a Catholic wedding and thought that was a little bit much, I'm going to recommend that you maybe reconsider dating that cute Filipino boy or girl, because you're probably not ready for this or ready to get married. When you do marry someone who is Filipino, it's very common, it's incredibly common that you're going to have another set of in-laws. So not only from your spouse, what they call a sponsor parents. So you will have 3 sets of parents, 2 in-laws, and their children will be kind of in the same way that your spouse's siblings are your siblings now too. Now I know 2 sets of in-laws, this kind of sounds like a lot, but that really boosts your chances of having someone who's really well-versed in Filipino cuisine. What I found in an article by Dennis Sim called Filipino Food and Culture on spruceeats.com, Filipino food is really a culmination of Asian and European food. And I know that couldn't be a more shotgun statement as far as combining cultures goes, but it couldn't be more true. Back into the 11th century, Chinese merchants on their old trade routes would come to the Philippines and they'd bring their favorite foods and they would bring their new, more advanced cooking techniques like steaming or stir frying. And what you guys saw on, hopefully everyone's gotten a chance to look at that piece of paper. Oh wow, look at that, you guys are so sweet. So lumpia is a more thin, long version of like a spring roll. And what they call siopao and shumai are based on dim sum dishes, which are steamed buns or dumplings that come in kind of bite-sized portions. So in second place for influence, it has to be the Spanish, not only on the way that they affected the ethnicity of the country, but additionally how they kind of affected the food. They brought in the things we're more familiar with, whether that's cheese, pork, and olive oil, things we're a little more familiar with. So this beautiful country has offered so much to the world, but what really made up the Philippines really didn't necessarily come from them. It's things they were able to take gifts, take advice, and what they found kind of lovely in the world. They know to stand by anybody who can consider them family. They practice a beautiful religion with such fire, it makes me want to give my first confession. And they know to take a good meal or good advice whenever it comes their way. So I hope that the appetite that I had to learn about the Philippines, the entourage of islands, has settled in you guys an appetite that is the same. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your attention.